want to know how well I know this place now? Okay, Fox Brothers Barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I will travel up.
I want to give you a suggestion.
All right, well, we'll see.
Rodney Scott's Whole Hog Barbecue.
Where is it?
There's one over on the south side, kind of almost where.
So you have to eat the whole hog.
You just want to.
You know where North Side turns into Metropolitan?
By the way, that should be a sign. Do you have to eat the whole hog? No, but you just want to. That's-
All right,
All right.
everyone.
Yes, yep, now we'll get to the real stuff.
I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking.
Oh, everybody does.
So we're about to get started. So everybody got their camera here ready and ready to roll. All right.
Yeah, somebody thought I was pandering. No. I was supposed to go, it was my father-in-law's birthday, so my wife was like, take him. I'm like, I just drank bourbon at home. Okay. Let's ready. Let's do MomoCon stuff.
Yeah, I'm back, yeah. Look, crazy 8th grade, nerdcore rap guy. Got into a dual fate and I just pulled a trap card. Third-rate rappers with a fourth-rate catalog. Destined for the shadow realm, y'all should never act hard. Flow is so insidious that I need an apprentice type. Master with the force, peep the context in my sentence, right? Phantom like the Sith is, just don't ask me what my pen is like. They know that I'm the menace, who you kidding? Bitch, I'm dangerous like. Sweet to drive, hide-headed, rhymes are surely cold. Tested, you can never twist my metal like the jury goes. So I ain't never mad when I push it to the max. I got Chris riding with me, bout to turn this bitch to Fury Road. Since animated, I'm the one the crew congratulated. When this will provide protective cover like it's laminated. Damn, I made this 16 like a guillotine. It's fascinating. If you think that you're ahead, you get decapitated. All that aside, I ain't merely here to rap words. I'm here to tell you who representing for the black nerds. And to remind you, neither one of these are bad words. Biggest living mirrors, they just choose to see it backwards. Who be the leaders of discussion when a topic trends? Dissections got the culture under microscopic lens. Who got the type that you can miss it from the start and make you feel like an expert on the subject by the time it ends? Check the stat, Louis, viewership is mad nice. All these other shows don't seem to cut it, that's a bad slice. Off the books with unscripted jewels you can't write. No vampires, but these interviews on Anne Rice. Yeah, this is the best part. Rhymes on Mandalorian, the pen is made of best score. Starting a war with these stars, you won't get far. This is the way you play a game of life or death star. So far removed from the drama, we don't notice harm, but won't hesitate to shed a light like a Patronus charm. With mischief managed, troubles at a disadvantage. Must be something in the water, dip your toe because you know it's warm. Where can you find another show with such a fine cast? And if you try to box them in, they playing Minecraft. And basically to sum it up like you define math, this crew's the best and it figures like a line graph. I'm Mary band like the words I do. Level-headed, you don't have to have absurd IQs. They know you can relate because they're nerds like you. With their help, you'll see the world from a blur's eye view. Yeah. You are now tuned in to Blur's Eye View. And without further ado, we out. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Everybody welcome Mr. Nolan North. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Mr. North, if you'll just pick.
Obi-Wan has his...
Hello there.
Hello.
JV versus the world. Welcome to MomoCon.
Thank you. Great to be here. Short drive.
What is your nerdy origin story?
My nerdy what?
Origin story.
My nerdy origin story?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
Man,
Like,
How'd you get into nerd stuff?
exactly.
oh. I like this. This is a good question, especially since we were just talking football and sports and stuff. I'm a big sports fan. Never never even imagined this was a job for me. I played baseball at college, North Carolina. I had a shot with the Braves, but I had a bad shoulder bump, and it wasn't. I would have been the guy middling in the minors. So I actually found during baseball, I had more fun sitting in the bullpen doing voices and telling jokes with my friends than, when the coach would get me up for relief, I would panic. It was probably not going to be my thing, but always loved comedy, and I could mimic my cousins and things like that. And Atari, I played Atari. Of course, the child of the 70s and 80s, it was mostly like, what are you doing inside? Get outside. So that was a limited time, which is good for parents to know. Limit the time, but buy the games. But I always found some people used to, people pigeonhole people. They're like, oh, you're a sports guy, so you don't do nerdy stuff. You don't do that. And I think what's happened in nerddom is it's everybody. I mean, it is such a great form of entertainment. Whenever I tell people when they want to get into it, I said, it's really good business. I look at the parents, I'm like, it's really good business because it's recession proof. Recession's bad. 2008, I remember, things were down, and people were buying games because for $60, your whole family could spend hours rather than spend $60 on tickets to go to a movie for 90 minutes. I love the fact that since I was a kid, being a nerd when you're a kid got you beat up, you're bullied, and now it's like we're all nerds. I mean, it's amazing when you look at pro athletes. I've met pro athletes that are like, you're Nathan Drake? No way, man. I met Wayne Gretzky because I did a soap opera. My first job was a soap opera called Port Charles, spin off of General Hospital. Did for 5 years. Dr. Ramsey. Yeah, I wasn't a big barrel chested, good looking guy. I was just that kind of that prick doctor that nobody liked, but himself. New York Emmys, and somebody says, hey, this guy wants to meet you. I turn around, it's Wayne Gretzky. He goes, hey, Dr. Ramsey. I thought it was a prank. And no, he was with the New York Rangers, and they watch soap operas. That's nerdy. It went from being kind of a derogatory word to like, you should wear that with honor. I mean, it's great. I mean, and it tells by all the people we get here. I get to go to these Comic-Cons all over the world. January I was in Bahrain, and it was like 2-hour line, and you're like, these really? Sweden, Finland, I'm in New Zealand, Australia later this year. I've been everywhere. I tell people who are Uncharted fans, I've traveled more than Nathan Drake has because of Nathan Drake. And it's great because my career has been one that I've had, Call of Duty and Deadpool and Assassin's Creed. I've been able to do so many things, and I just, just the fact that everything I got in trouble in school for, I get paid to do now is just a blessing. I'm grateful for it every day, and I'm proud to be, part of nerddom. I wish I could play better, but again, it's just that I spend so much time working on these things in a booth or going to a set or a film studio, and I'm inside all day. When I'm done, I hear my dad in my head. He says, "Get outside. Just sit outside on a chair and go, birds." It's nice. Yeah.
How has voice acting changed since you first started back in the early 2000s to now?
Great question. Specifically in video games. Well, first of all, quick answer, animation, so much more is in streaming, and there's so much more material, but residuals aren't quite as good. Gaming is my better answer for y'all is, when I started, when I was off that show, Port Charles, a guy who worked on it had told me, because then you go do, every actor does JAG and CSI Miami, you do those things and you're trying to find the next thing. I tested for new shows that you didn't get, whatever. And a friend of mine said, hey, you're always goofing around with us doing the voices, you should talk to my voiceover agent. So I went and met with them, and they were like, yes, I did this demo tape, and they signed me, and off we went. They said, listen, it's really hard animation, breaking in. But video games, if you're open to that, I said, it's tough because it's 4 hours screaming. And you know, you just pay the base rate. And I'm like, what is that? And I go, it's $750. And I'm like, well, I'm going to scream at my kids for 4 hours for free. So I might as well take that. What was interesting though is I literally felt like the voiceover at that time was like, grenade, get down, you know, just its direction. But I felt it was like part of the sound design. It wasn't about me, it was about the games. And I came from a theater background, you know, after college and everything, and bouncing around. In New York, I just said, this is what I'm going to do, and I started doing theater. And there's an old adage is that the play is the thing. You know, it's about the story, it's about the player, not about you. And you were part of sound design. And my thing was like, I don't want you as the gamer to, oh, I know who that is. You know, you just wanted to be, oh, that's some soldier, that's some alien, whatever. And what happened is it slowly got so much more, it got deeper, you know, narrative storytelling started to become a thing. And I had done so many jobs, and I tell people, with any job you do, be the guy people want to work with. And I always, somebody told me once, it's easier to be 15 minutes early than on time. I live by that. Because I hate being late. And then have a good time. Make people laugh, because it's a good time for me too, and it keeps me free. And then try to finish early so they can get home to their kids or get to lunch early before the next session they have to do. And they will hire you again. And you know, with no residuals in gaming and stuff like that, it was a volume business, so do more. And I have a pretty good range of different kind of voices I could do, so, and accents, so I became kind of a go-to guy. So when it became more narrative and they started getting a little more layered in, they were like, oh, but he's also an actor, which I also tell people, I want to be a voice actor. It's like, be an actor. Be an actor first. It doesn't matter how many voices you can do, be an actor first. And it just, I was at the right place at the right time, which is so much how life is. That when that started, you know, then they got into motion capture and they're like, hey, you know, you've been on camera stuff, so this would be, I'm like, yeah. And then I tell people, motion capture is like high paid theater. There's nothing, it's paid theater. High paid is great because, you know, it's just one of those things. So I've been blessed to just see this, you know, how this has risen to become the art form it is today. You know, things like Uncharted, Last of Us, these great games with great storytellers, amazing people who make it all happen, and it's enjoyed by so many people. So yeah, it's crazy. So I'm gonna go over this. I'm going back and forth, but yeah.
Hi, Joshua Morales from Giant More here.
Hey.
My question for you is, you were speaking about your previous experience, not only as a baseball player, but in doing my research, I also know you have some experience in journalism as well.
Yeah.
With all of that experience, how has that not only informed but strengthened how entertainment affects you, or how you understand it as you continue to do it over the years?
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I chose North Carolina because they had a great journalism program. I mean, there's famous people like Roger Mudd, Charles Corral. One of my favorite teachers was a guy who walked with Martin Luther King, Chuck Stone, who was out of Philadelphia, and man, bow tie. He smelled so good. I know that may sound weird, but that dude, he just exuded class, and he was the best. He was kind of like a bit of a mentor for me. And you know, I told him, I said, yeah, I figured when sports are over, you know, I'd go into ESPN, be a sports guy. But I was never really a nerd for statistics and things like that. These guys can spit stuff out. And yeah, so but playing baseball, I never had the opportunity to do internships and things like that, so I ended up going to grad school in Boston, and then right out of there I got a job as a reporter for a year in New York and New Jersey, driving around a little beat up Honda. You know, sometimes I think my cameraman had a drug problem, so I have to do it myself. I interviewed Al Gore with a thing like this. He was like, oh, what school is this for? I'm like, it's an actual station, I'm sorry. But I mean, I didn't get to do sports. I had to do death and murder and stuff, and it was this. I hated on the news. I don't think it's news. Like, go talk to the family when their teenage son is shot in Newark, and it just wasn't in my heart. And I remember making the choice to I'd rather be broke and happy than have a paycheck and continue on this path. It's funny because the day I called to give my 2 weeks notice, I called it and I got the news director on the phone, and I said, I need to talk to you. She goes, oh God, this is great. Doug Bell has left for the Buffalo affiliate. We want to offer you the head anchor job in Poughkeepsie, New York. It's not crazy, but and I just went, I'm flattered, but this is my 2 week notice. Hold on, I gotta go to my office. Hold on. And we had a big time. I told her what I was gonna do, and she was like, if you ever need a job, if it doesn't work out, you need a job, find me and you have one. And it was great. But that experience, the experiences I had, the things I saw, horrible things I saw, the people I met, the people I got to see in journalism, it informs so much of what I get to do, either in an audio booth or on set with characters. Because there's things that if you just can kind of keep those in your memory banks, and the things you learn and the things you do. So, I've joked about it. I say, I got all this education. I don't do anything with it, and that's a cop out. I absolutely do a lot with it but I think you can do that. It's everything in life. When you see people who have, I grew up without a lot of money, and then great thing about being poor is you're never afraid to be poor again. And it's just like, I lived, I got through it, I think what it does is just, being a journalist and seeing things first of all, you can play a journalist, because I've done that. But it also got me in front of a camera. It got me, I know how to use a camera, how to use a microphone, how to set up shots, things like that. So when you're on set, you know that the camera's sitting up there, and I can look at when I did Hysteria here, we shot in Covington, and you walk on set and like, what lens you got? What are we doing? And what's the setup? And they show me and said, all right, so I said, where do you want me here? If she's here? And they're like, yeah, you can find there's little things that you pick up on it. But from that journalism experience, it was really just meeting people, talking to people from all walks of life, from the top politicians to some family who just lost their house in a fire. It was just it gets you close to humanity, and I think you can then. I'm not like a heady actor, I don't think, but I never forget things. It's just like this. You build up this kind of library in your head, and hopefully, then this reminds me of that, and you use that. I can't tell you how you use it, because I haven't quite figured that out yet, but it's there, and somehow the camera catches it. You don't have to actively think about that kind of stuff. So I hope that answers the question. I'm not quite sure. I'm coming to you next, but I've got to go over to this guy. I'm going left, right. See what I'm trying to do?
James with Moana Movie Podcast. With Uncharted being as big as it was as far as the video game franchise, and then for the fans finally being satisfied with the movie adaptation, can you speak to voicing Nathan Drake and then just appearing in the film, that transition? Because at one point the fans wanted the film probably 10 years prior to when it released, hoping you would play the role that you voiced. So what was that like?
Truth is, understanding the business of Hollywood, it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, and I'm very happy with what they did. We finished the first one, and I think Hugh Jackman. They were talking about Hugh Jackman at some point doing all this stuff. And, you're talking about movies are made. The Uncharted movie made money before it ever shot a frame of film. It's foreign financing. For those of you who know, it's a very complicated but very simple formula. You get Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. That thing is back financed and done, and they're putting money in their pocket. Now all they have to do is go shoot it. Then there's then they sell tickets and Netflix. They go to Netflix and all that stuff after. But that's gravy. It's all back financed, and you need a name that people know. If they made the Uncharted movie with Nolan North, all the gamers would come out and see it, but people, first of all, it would never get financed. And I'm not trying to knock myself. I'm good at what I do. I know it's not about talent. It's about name, and that's fine. You know, and I was glad that they finally got it up on their feet. What made me really happy is after they went through all those machinations of, oh, we got to get, you know, we want to, maybe it's Hugh Jackman, or maybe it's, you know, Chris Pine. I thought Chris Pine was good. I did. J.J. Abrams was a fan of Uncharted, and he put me in the Star Trek movie. And you know, just off to the side, it was, you know, but you know, it was, I remember in a makeup time, I was sitting with Chris Pine. I said, you know, if you ever get that offer, you should think about it, because he looked the part. He had that kind of swagger to him. We're about the same height. I was like, this could be cool. But what I think they did that was interesting is, and people at Sony told me this, and Ari Arad told me, he said, first of all, video games are very tough to make films out of. They don't really do all that well, except like the horror ones. Because when you take, you know, if you're playing Uncharted, you're Nathan Drake, not me. You're Nathan Drake. You're Nathan Drake. You know, you're on the stick. You are in it. Now you got to sit there for 2 hours and watch somebody else that doesn't sound like the guy you know doing things. It's a passive experience. They said, we don't want to, you know, intrude on what you guys did with those games, but where was Drake in his 20s? Well, that automatically rules any chance of me doing it. But you know, then they go and get arguably one of the biggest film stars in the world, who's a fan of the thing. You know, his brothers played. He's athletic. He's unbelievably athletic. I mean, he can do it, and you know, and then they can put their own stamp on it, and you know, then do scenes like falling out of the plane as an homage to the game. And I thought they did a good job with it. I felt like they had to edit it down to fit a time constraint the studio probably wanted. So there were parts of it I thought were a little rushed. But I thought Mark did a great job. I mean, I love the fact that Sully had a cat. I think that's funny. it's their own little thing. And it's a cat. You know, it's like that. You know, I love that little. And then, you know, he doesn't have a mustache. And at the end, he has the mustache. And yeah, I thought it was really well done. And it leads to the opportunity for more films if they want to do them. Will that happen? You know, who knows? But and to be part of it, I was honored to be part of it. Of course, it was October 2020, middle of the pandemic. They're like, would you mind if we flew you to Barcelona, Spain by Friday? I said, you could fly me to Topeka, Kansas by Friday. I'm stuck in my house. So, and then I sat in a hotel room in quarantine in Barcelona. I'm like, this looks like a pretty city. Had my nose swabbed at least 40 times during that 4 or 5 days I was there. But it was a great experience, and yeah, I think you know, they did a really nice job with it. I hope they make more. Yeah. Yes.
This will be the last question, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
Let me go.
real quick. I'm Joy with Wanui Podcast. I was gonna ask the exact question he just asked, except I was gonna say that I am a huge fan of the Uncharted series, and Nathan Drake was one of my first video game loves, and so it's surreal for me to be sitting here with you, and I did sign the petition for you to be in the movie back in the day, so huge fan.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a blast playing Nathan Drake, and it's so much my personality, so I can't climb like that though. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Nolan.
You're next. We're going to get 2 more. I can make it fast.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Nolan. Okay, Mandy here. And you played many unique personalities throughout your impressive career. What was something you learned from the character you played?
Something I learned?
From the character you played, yes.
I did Blaze and the Monster Machines for Nickelodeon.
I remember that.
And I learned that centripetal force and centrifugal force are 2 very different things. Go ahead. Yeah.
Of all the different characters that you've done voices for, which one would you say you had the most fun with, where you could just kind of cut loose and put a little bit more of you into the role?
This is going to be weird. So Nathan Drake is me. that's my favorite role I've ever played. I got to be me. I got to be the lead of something. I learned so much as an actor with these other actors. It's all with other people. It's like doing theater, like I said before. Amazing. But if I'm just talking sitting in a booth and going crazy on a microphone, there's nothing better than Deadpool. Because they would write amazing stuff, and my brain, which I did a lot of improv stuff in my past, and it was like, he can say and do anything, and there's no repercussions. And it's one of my favorite roles. In fact, when we did Hulk vs. Wolverine, the first time I did it, I've been doing Wolverine and the X-Men for the same producers. I was Cyclops. And they came to me, they said, we did this movie. We had a Canadian actor, I don't know who it was, not Ryan. And he's great, but we don't think he's quite Deadpool. I'm like, okay. He said, you know Deadpool? I'm like, absolutely. Do you know how you always say things between takes that will get us all canceled or fired? I'm like, yeah. He said, we think that's Deadpool. They brought me into the studio, told me the premise, everything. They had a monitor up. They said, the film's done, we're going to show you some scenes. All right, let's get started. I'm like, where's the script? They said, well, this is the fun part. We're going to show you the scene with no audio. We've taken Deadpool's audio. Make it up. So I mean, they would feed me some lines. The writers would feed some lines, but I just made stuff up. And the entire movie is just like me, just off the top of my head. And I said, that's crazy. They go, that's Deadpool. So I feel this kind of kinship to that. And he can say anything in any situation. And you could be a very serious moment, and he just break that fourth wall, which is brilliant. Just be like, this is going well, isn't it? And then, and then back, and you just, every time I have the Deadpool session, the thing is, what I try to do is do it as whatever lines they may have, but then anything that comes to mind. Hey, can we try this? And throw that out there. Inevitably, many of those things end up. And we did the similar thing with Nathan Drake, all mocap. But then there'd be days where you have to do in-game lines, and and what it was, we called it panning for gold, and chasing the picture. Because what they would do, they'd have a developer run through a level, and I would just watch it. And let's say it's Sully's with me, so Richard McGonigal would be sitting there, and we would they'd have a couple lines written like, I think it's up there, Sully this way. And you have some lines like, and then Sully's climbing. I'm like, you got a great ass, Sully. And everyone would laugh, but you just make, and I love, there's a famous one in Uncharted 3, run through a chateau. Through here, follow me. Hey, popcorn machine. And I just, because it looked like a popcorn machine to me. And that's in the game. And I love meeting fans who say, I'm playing, and I see something, and in my head, I'm like, hey, that looks like, and you say popcorn machine. It's crazy, you say things, and I hear that from a lot of people. I'm like, yeah, because I was saying it like if I was just, remember Mystery Science Theater 3000? They were just that's what it was kind of, and no, they didn't use everything, but they used certain things in it, and it worked because it made, the best thing about Nathan Drake is he's all of us. He's just a guy, my favorite part, Drake's Fortune. One Ordinary Man, One Extraordinary Adventure was the title, was on the box. And it made us, that's why I think it's become such a thing with men and women and young and old. It's just, he's trying his best just to get through the day, And what was great is he didn't get the treasure at the end. Sully, I got, just enough to keep them afloat. He never got the big score. And he destroyed cities along the way. I mean, it's just, I think there's a kinship we all feel with him. It's the same way with Bruce Willis in Die Hard or Indiana Jones. I remember doing the thing where I had to hit somebody, and I did this fake hit. I was like this, and I went and everyone kind of laughed. And Amy Hennig, our creator, she said, I like that. I said, have you ever punched anyone? She goes, no. I said, I have. I've been in fights. I almost broke my hand when I hit some guy. I almost knocked this dude out. It was just this big stupid fight in college or whatever. It hurts. I said, enough of these big game heroes, hit him, take that. It was like, you know, running off. He's like, come on, Nate, we gotta get out of here. Yeah, find some ice. You know, things like that just would be, and I think people just kind of, you know, as evidenced by its success, I think people were drawn to that kind of thing. And it was, but it's not just me. It was everyone at Naughty Dog. It was Amy Hennig. That came out of her head. She gets all the credit in the world for it. The other actors, the artists, the programmers, they had to make all those dots come to life. In the first 3 games, there was no facial capture. And there was a guy, Eric Baldwin, I remember his name. He was in charge of facial animation. Just every time I was like, you know, if I'm sitting there going, yeah, he would make my face do that. And it just, I told my wife about it. She goes, that guy knows your face better than I do. I'm like, then I left her for Eric. Didn't work out though, because he's a guy, and I was like, oh, gross. So no, but it was a honor to play him. I'm constantly I'm meeting people who are now bringing their 12, 13-year-old kids now dressed like Drake, and it's like they met me in 2009 or whatever when they were dressed like Drake, and it's just that role. But I love coming down here, and I'm Richtofen. I've never played Uncharted. Great. I like Deadpool. I like this. I like that. You know, it's just so much fun to do what I get to do, and I just hope they keep letting me do it. My big goal when I became an actor is like, don't ever serve food again. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but this is better. That said, both my kids are now waiters because they want to do this. I get. Are we out of time? I guess.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
and if you could provide like your social media handles for people to be able to follow you.
I'm real active on social media. Really Nolan North on Instagram. And I think I'm Nolan _North on Twitter, X, whatever it is. Yeah, I think it's Nolan because somebody tried to sell me Nolan North. At Nolan North, I'm like, yeah, keep it. Good luck with that. Yeah, those are the only 2 I really do. And I do want to say one other thing. If you're familiar with the rapper Logic,
Yeah.
we did a film last year, and it's been accepted at Tribeca Film Festival. And it's in New York, June 6th. We do our big premiere, and it's a really funny, super irreverent. I mean, it's old school comedy, kind of like it takes no prisoners. He is unbelievably talented. Met him at a con. He's a massive fan of mine. I was like, when my kids find out that I met you, they're gonna freak out. The fact that you know me and they're a fan, unbelievable. And he's so creative. We had so much fun. Kevin Smith, executive produced, and is the editor. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ron Perlman, and he financed the whole thing himself. And he's a crazy genius. And I mean, it will bring everybody of every belief, religion, color together in comedy heaven, in my opinion, because it's funny, and I get to carry a big gun. It's fun. I haven't seen it, so if it's bad, don't blame me. No, but it won't be. It's at Tribeca. De Niro said, "Hey, it's good. Let's bring it in." You know? So check it out when it's out. I don't know. I don't know how the festival circuit necessarily works, but I hope it does. I hope it does well. He deserves it. He's unbelievably talented. And Adme writes sic parvis magna on a piece of paper, and he had it tattooed. Sent me the picture. It's on his neck. But he can get away with the neck tattoo. But I was like, he sent it to me when just after he had it done. It was all red. I'm like, that looks painful. He goes, it was. So anyway, thank you all for all the support and everything. I know probably somebody else has to come in, and I gotta go home.
If you don't mind doing a quick group photo with all of our press outlets.
I have to charge you each $1,000.
Okay.
Oh wait, today's Saturday. It's free.
Yeah.
Geek by Hearts.
Lady Mandalore, also known as Roomful of Words.
Chris Fury.
We'll be watching Mayhem Media.
And you are watching...
What's Eyeview?